to those in the chamber and those at home. Do we have apologies for absence, please?
Yes, we have apologies from councillors Ross McKinnon and from councillor Howard Wollaston.
Thank you very much. On the minutes, we have two sets of minutes here. I'll put to you, members.
Sorry, Leader, there were two others. I do apologise, Councillor Culver and Councillor.
We'll note those then. Thank you, Councillor Abs. Okay. So I'll turn down the mic here. So we have the minutes of the executive meeting of 13th of February 2025. Is there a proposer, please, to adopt these? I'll propose them myself from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Cottingham. All those in favour? Show. Thank you very much indeed. And then we go on to the 19th of March 2025. Again, I'll propose them. And a seconder, Councillor Patrick Clark. All those in favour? Gets us through the minutes. Thank you. We have. You've got a query, sir?
Yeah, sorry, Leader. Apologies for lateness. I haven't fired up my machine just now, but there was I asked a question about about young people, children, young people, how they would fare under a new local authority, and my question was reported as saying that was this the best available option for our children, which wasn't really the threat. It's a little subtle, but never mind availability, was it the best option for our children?
We haven't accepted it. I'm sorry. You're talking about the 19th.
19th, yeah.
You're talking about the 19th of March. And we have accepted them, but I don't think it's unreasonable to make a note of that. So could you, yeah, we will make a note of that in the minutes of this meeting. Right. Okay. Thank you. And then we have public questions. I'd like to thank all of the members of the public that have declaration of interest. Beg your pardon. Do we have any declaration of interest? Members? Okay, no declaration. Public questions. I'd like to thank all members of the public that have submitted questions for this evening's executive meeting. Welcome those of you in attendance to hear the answer to your questions and ask a supplementary question if you have one. Your question will appear on the screen and will be answered by the relevant portfolio holder. You then be given the opportunity to ask a supplementary question, but please remember this must be to clarify the response provided and not to introduce any new business. I think it's superfluous tonight, but there is a time limit on public questions of 30 minutes. I don't think we'll go over that tonight, but if the questions haven't been answered that time, we move to a written response. Now, of the questions, Mr. McEwen and Mr. Morgan have requested a written response. And so there's one we're taking tonight, and that's you, Mr. Goatley, to Councillor Justin Pemberton. If you could come forward, we'll crack on with that question, please.
Yes, Mr. Goatley, thank you for your question. The vision for Bond Riverside is to promote economic success and resilience for the site through promoting mixed-use development while ensuring successful existing and future tenancies. Key council objectives for the site are improvement, regeneration and improved on-site amenity at Bond Riverside for employment or mixed use and community sports and leisure, better connectivity with the town centre, and ensuring that this is an attractive site for businesses to locate and invest. Having restored the football pitch to Faraday Road, the further vision for the Bond Riverside site is to work to create secure and successful tenancies while building a sound business case for the regeneration work. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, but thank you for that quite detailed answer. As you'll appreciate, I'm a next door neighbour to the estate, in effect, and we've had a lot of visions go by since I think the Liberals started it in about 2006. So I'm just wondering at the moment, what steps you think you need to take to actually be successful where others have failed?
Thank you for your supplementary question. I mean, clearly, Mr. Goatley, this isn't something that the council can do in isolation. We do need to work with the existing tenants. We do need to work with potential private investors. And we do need to work with local residents such as yourself to find a solution that works for everybody. It's a fair question, but it's a difficult question to answer because, as you will know yourself from the history of the site, it takes time to work plans through, and those plans are still coming through. When we have sight of those plans and we have a better idea of what's going on, we will pick through it and we will deal whatever's in front of us in line with the relevant planning rules and whatever else we need to think about at that time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goatley. So, speeding on then, we're on to item number 6, which is contract for award under delegated authority. No, I'm not. I've missed out declarations of interest. I'm now missing out petitions. Are there any petitions, say?
None received.
All right. Mustn't assume. Okay, item 6, contract for award under delegated authority from executive. We'll take this in 2 parts because obviously we won't discuss any commercials and finance in part 1, except to say they are over a certain value. So I think you're introducing this, Councillor Cottingham, please.
I'm proposing this.
Proposing this, yeah. Will you speak to it, please, for us?
I will.
Thank
Do
you.
we need a seconder?
I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, this is a contract under delegated authority. The recommendation is to delegate the authority to an individual service director to proceed with the award of 2 contracts, one for the Royal Berkshire Archives extension and the other for Falkland Modular Extension, in consultation with the Section 151 officer and portfolio holder, following the completion of the appropriate procurement process and procurement board approval of a contract award. Reports to the detail, as you say, will be in part 2 of the various contracts which are up, which have been proposed, which comply with the amounts which are within the report for both contract awards.
Yes, thank you for that. So obviously this is part of our constitution that awards over 2.5 million will come through executive. So one for the Royal Berkshire Archives extension, a legacy, if you like, of us being the lead authority on the Berkshire Archives after the abolition of the Berkshire County Council in 1998. The Falkland modular replacement, I'm sure Councillor Bowick will be pleased to see that coming forward rapidly now. Councillor Codling, I'm sure you'll be pleased. You've taken a personal interest in that. Did you want to say anything?
Just to say that the board meets regularly and the project is moving on and building will start in the summer.
Happy, Councillor Bowick?
Yes, perfectly happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Very helpful. So I'm going to park that now. I think the recommendation is to delegate authority to an individual service director to proceed with the award. So am I taking that now or am I going to part 2 for that?
Vote later.
Vote later. Very good. Happy. Thank you. And then we are on to item 7, which is the performance report Q3, starting on page 31. Members, I hope you'll notice that this report in its presentation has changed quite dramatically from, well, 1 or 2 ago. And I'm very grateful to Beatrice Teixeira for the work she's done on this. To me, it's getting much more easy to see what's green, what's amber, what's red, reasons for it. If you look at page 34, number of council services functions digitised and or transformed, 18 out of 23. We've maintained the general fund at the section 151 minimum, complete. Expenditure on agency staff, 5.6k, succeeding. It's simple messaging, and I will be asking Councillor McKinnon, who I see isn't here tonight, but to comment on it, because I remember saying in this chair, as it adapts, I'll be looking for input from the opposition, from the minority group, on how easy it is to follow. I don't think we disagree that a couple of reports ago, it got too complicated for easy messaging. So from messaging and being able to understand, I'm very pleased with it. I will say to officers now, data unavailable should be a rare occurrence. And it isn't in this report. So I'm sending a message before perhaps the opposition tell me to, that this data should be available except for exceptional circumstances. So I'll say that before Councillor Stewart, Somner, Abbs or McBowick pointed out. We are ready to take questions on this. I won't go further into its introduction, but we'll handle questions. And you're ready to ready to take questions. So I'm going to throw it over here, and then I may be asking a couple of questions myself of them as well. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, much better presentation. Thank you very much for that. Just a general observation. I've got some detailed ones, but general one. In a couple of places, there's a commentary been provided, which is extremely helpful. But the way it's laid out, I'm looking, for example, at the difficulty with my weak eyes.
Page number, please.
Page number 54, ESKPI 1, Q41. It's just not going to talk about the detail, just that it's a strange way to read an update, and I kind of wonder whether it might not be better to do a short summary and point somewhere else where there's more to read, if it's required.
I think this is dragged out of Power BI and just put into the report as supporting information. But by the time you get to those pages, I think, from what I've seen, right up to page 50, that information is in there, and then there is more data you could get hold of through that page 54, as you point out. I have to ask you, do those pages from 53 onwards, 53 onwards, add very much to the report? I think that's a question I'll ask Councillor McKinnon as well. Do they add very much to the report? We should have answered all of this in the previous pages. So, Councillor Abbs, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Just something very simple. I agree with you. I think that's how this report is extracted from Power BI. Looks like it to me. There are a few things. I'm not looking at the particular page numbers. I'm looking at the various documents as they're listed on the website. But it'd be very easy. You've got several columns that are numbers, which are very wide, and then a text column on the right-hand side that's basically the same width. They don't need to be, and that will give us a lot more space to be able to read the comments. It will shorten the whole thing, less paper printed, and blah, 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 blah. It's just a really easy fix, even in Power BI, to get that done. So I don't, it's just feedback, really.
Well, I think it's, if your landscape would probably do it, wouldn't it?
Well,
Okay.
It's an easy fix, put it that way.
We're making a note of that. So sorry, that was a general point. Are there specifics, please?
Yeah, perhaps Councillor Codling could talk a little bit about the children who have had more than 3 placements. Yeah. It's top of the shop. It's number page 53.
Councillor Codling, we went through this beforehand, didn't we? I think it's also not just page 53, Councillor Bowick, it's earlier on as well. Page 40, yeah. I think if you don't mind going to page 40, members, you'll see it there. Councillor Codling, you got line of
Yes,
sight of
thank
it,
you.
please? Yeah.
Thank you. Children that had more than 3, there's quite a lot of reasons why young people get moved. It could be a placement breakdown. It could be that they're being moved to a potential adopter. We don't like too many moves, and it is scrutinised regularly by the team's performance board and also corporate parent panel. But I would say this is an improving picture. It's better than it was.
We agree with you. We want to get it down. It's just a little out, but point taken. Anything else? Okay. Well, as I say, apart from, if you look at the pie chart on page 39, 38 green, 11 no data. That should be 2 or 3. We're going to look hard at the reds. If you look again at the pages 30, 40 onwards, the reds are very clear to see. The comment on how we're improving them is clear to see. I am looking to add a sort of trend arrow. So if you look at the actual year to date, on number 24, percentage of West Berkshire Council provided services inspected by the CQC and rated as good or better, it's at 80%. I want to see if that's going up or down from the previous quarter. So you get that trend that actually it's getting worse, not better. It's staying the same, or it's improved on the quarter and is on the up. I think that would add to it, and I'm hoping it would be, perhaps you can make a note of it, please, Joseph, because Sarah's not here, but that would add a little something to it. We've gone back to not only showing what is not on target, but what we're doing about it. So again, I think we've headed a long way from the original presentation of this in the last couple of quarters. Members, if you're comfortable with this, is it noted item, please, Sadie? It is a noted item. There's no vote on it, but it's a regular here, and important to, next time, let's get some of those reds down, please. That's the message to the EDs and the interim CEO. Thank you very much indeed. We then on to the waste management strategy, page 99. Councillor Stuart Cawley, you're going to introduce that for us, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I've got a bit of an introduction to this waste strategy. I think it's really important to highlight. Do you want me to?
Taking the proposal.
I'm happy to propose that.
Proposing. Councillor Gaines, seconding. As you can see, it's going like clockwork tonight. Back to you then, Councillor.
On the money this week. No, that's cool. It's efficiency, I like to think of it as. So yes, the waste strategy is really important. So I want to highlight some of those kind of key things this evening before any kind of questions and answers. So I think it's really important to highlight that, waste services are one of the most visible services that any council provides for its residents. It's utilised by around 168,000 residents across West Berkshire. It's important, it's vital, and it's personal, and I get that. But this doesn't mean that we shouldn't look to improve our services, to improve how we do things and improve the efficiency of the service and how we dispose of our waste and recycling to be the most effective and efficient that it can be. How and what we dispose is also a key component in our push to improve our lived environment, to produce our waste produced, increase our recycling rates and drive down our carbon emissions across West Berkshire. This waste strategy before you sets out our direction of travel through to 2032. This waste strategy sets out our key priorities and our key themes for the next 8 years. And this waste strategy sets out how we can make a step change to really push on and improve our recycling rates and future-proof our waste services in light of potential government legislation. There has been considerable consultation with key stakeholders to bring this waste strategy to fruition. It's been through various Environment Advisory Group or EAG open forum updates. There's been 3 workshops with members, 2 back in March 23, 1 in July 23 to gather feedback and foster dialogue. There was a public workshop held back in May 23 to gain valuable community perspective. It took a trip to scrutiny on the 17th of July 24. And then went to public consultation on the 25th to the 6th of November of last year. And finally, it took a trip to scrutiny a couple of weeks ago before coming here on the 13th of March. So it's been very much looked at and had some really great engagement and consultation. With regards to the public consultation that we held just before Christmas, I want to say thank you to all of the residents. There were over 5,000 that took part and took the opportunity to complete the extensive consultation. So thanks to all of those involved for bringing that consultation exercise forward and for the engagement from the public. There are a couple of key points to highlight from this ambitious waste strategy. There are plenty of opportunities. Analysis has shown that 42% of black bin residual waste could be recycled through one of the existing West Berkshire routes. Food waste alone accounts for about 22% of what's in a black bin still. We remain committed to expanding and improving our curbside offering and making it easier for residents to do the right thing. We recently launched our pots, tubs and tray service at the curbside. And this ambitious strategy aims to achieve net zero operations by 2030 and carbon negative by 2040, and really ensure that the waste journey plays its part in improving our environment. We remain committed to making meaningful progress towards halving our residual waste, or commonly known as black bin waste, to 120 kilos per person by the year 2042. And it's an area where we do struggle as a district. And we will really continue to focus on making West Berkshire a great place to live and work by minimising the level of litter. I'd also like to highlight that community engagement and involvement is a key part to keeping our communities and district clean. And just want to say a big thank you to everyone and every community group that litter picks in our local area across West Berkshire. And it's also a great opportunity to highlight that we're in the last few days of the Great British Spring Clean. And I've already seen some fantastic work that's gone on around West Berkshire. However, with all of this said, I know there are things contained in this strategy that will make people nervous, and I hear that, but I wouldn't be proposing it if I didn't think it was achievable. And I'm confident that with strong planning, communication and execution, we can make it a success for all. And I would also like to remind residents and let residents know that we are here to help. We don't want residents to suffer, so please do reach out if you are struggling or have any concerns with any of the potential changes proposed here this evening and within this strategy. And I guess finally, improving our recycling rates is a collective effort across the council and across West Berkshire. Communication, engagement, education and support are going to be key to continuing to improve how we perform and deliver against this strategy. And helping all to understand more about what we can reduce, reuse and recycle is absolutely critical as we work together on this journey. So yes, I'm happy to bring the waste strategy here tonight, hopefully for adoption. Thank you, Leader.
Grateful for that. And obviously, as an administration, as executive, as a portfolio holder, we are great advocates of this waste strategy. It's been through, as you said, several public meetings. And this is sort of the last one because tonight we would expect to adopt it. Any other comments by executive members? It did have a run through at scrutiny. Any from Councillor Abbs, I take you, sir?
Yeah, thank you very much. If I still had the portfolio, I would not be recommending this waste strategy. And let me try and explain why. Yeah, but it's a question, please. I mean, if I don't give you any background, it'd just be me saying I don't agree, and that'd be pointless. The overwhelming feedback from 5,000 people who you just mentioned is they don't want you to move to a 3-week collection strategy. Effectively, you're moving to a 3-week collection strategy because the officers have recommended that. And basically, it may drift us up a few percent as we go through the next decade or so. But it won't get us to the 70 or 80% recycling rates, which is really where we need to be to have any chance of basically saving the planet. I've spoken about what I'm about to say, by the way, with the Greens as well, as you'd normally think would be here and talking about this, but they're actually in agreement with what I'm saying here is that every time we ask people to change what they're doing, it gets harder and harder to persuade them to do it.
Now,
let's remember that
we've had, forgive me for a moment.
Yeah, of course.
This is quite a lot of introduction to a question, sir.
So
no,
the question is going to be, why aren't we considering the alternatives, which I'm going to lay out? at least one alternative that I'm going to be allowed. So there is definitely a question there, Leader. I appreciate I have to go through some preamble to get to it. Apologies for that. So we do have to remember that already we've had the willing already doing what they can. Those that want to recycle are already doing it. They've been pushing this council for more. The trays, etc., was something the public were pushing for, a while ago. But we have to remember some of the things that hold us back. This finite amount of room in homes.
Councillor
And
Abbs, this is a speech, sir.
Yeah,
This
it
is a
is.
speech.
I'm laying the groundworks
No,
because
no. Well, please, 30 seconds. to
Okay,
lay
I'll
the
just
rest of
write to the
groundwork.
press. It'll be easier. You don't
Councillor
actually
Abbs.
want to listen to an alternative to what you're going to approve tonight. What you're trying to approve tonight is one way of going forward. That one way of going forward might, and I say might, get you to 60%. It is not a strategy that fits for purpose for the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years. To do that, you need, no, it's not, Stuart.
And
You
Councillor
need to
Abbs,
get people
would you
on side.
Please defer to the chair for a moment. I'll
Of
let
course,
you back
yeah.
in a second, sir. You have a position. We respect everybody's point of view in here. What we asked for is a degree of brevity to say, this is my view, and I'm questioning the portfolio holder now on why my view isn't going to
Okay.
take precedent. It has to be within the realms of questions. Otherwise, it is an alternative motion. It's almost sounding like an alternative motion and waste strategy to the one we're trying to introduce. So I see your frustration. It is a function of how this works.
Okay, I think we're
Back
both
to
on the
you
same
now.
side
Back
as
to you
we,
now.
yeah, we are both on the same side. We're trying to put recycling at the top of the agenda, not at the bottom of it. The approach is different. And my question to you is or questions to you are really is, why do we continue down this route, first of all, of trying to persuade people to separate more and more at home when they've got barriers to doing it? And I was explaining what some of those barriers were. Second question is, why?
Take that question first.
Okay.
And I think my own experience, which isn't huge, but is not tiny either, is MRFs are not very effective and dirty places to have to work. But back to you, Councillor Crawley.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of points I'd like to pick out, I suppose ever so quickly. Councillor Abbs is absolutely correct. This isn't a strategy for 15 or 20 years. It's a strategy for 8 through to 2032, when the PFI agreement is up for renewal. And obviously with LGR, who knows what might happen. I'm sure there will be opportunities there. So you're absolutely right. I don't disagree. It's not a strategy for 15 or 20 years. It says that on the front of the booklet. In terms of asking people to separate more, we're not. We haven't increased any amount of curbside containers at all. Our pots, tubs and trays that we've recently launched at the curbside goes into the existing plastic collection boxes for collection. And in fact, one of the key outcomes and parts of this strategy is reviewing our recycling containers full stop. And there is a clear trajectory there to reduce the number that we have and look at what that we provide. So I think it's covered in the strategy.
Councillor Abbs.
Yeah, thank you. So we seem to be in agreement that the strategy doesn't cover long enough.
No.
I do disagree with that point because
8
I
years
said
is
it
nothing.
doesn't cover 15 or 20 like you proposed.
Eight
I
years
highlighted that it's still 2032 when the PFI contract is up for renewal, which is
Okay.
the logical time to
Okay.
re-review.
So
Councillor Abbs.
yeah, indeed. By following this strategy for the next 8 years, you're going down a certain route. That certain route includes purchasing fleets of vehicles, setting people's jobs up for that time frame. Sorry to contradict you, Jeff, in terms of MRFs. At one stage, they were the dirtiest thing. But if you put contaminated waste into a single bin and then expect a MRF to separate it, of course, it will be lower. But if you don't put contaminated materials, if you just separate into things like dry, compostable, and then the rest, you can go from 6 bins to 3. You can use the newer technologies to identify the products and separate. And so you can start investing and thinking about the strategies. And this is the only difference between where you are and what you're suggesting. And what I'm suggesting is that we should be looking at some of these alternatives because before you know it, that contract will be up for renewal. And some of the decisions will start to be made, some of the negotiations in that will start to be made during this council cycle.
That's the preamble again. So I think your question's coming, please. Yeah.
The question is, why don't we look at the lease? Why haven't we had a report about the alternatives to this? This is one approach that's being used by a few councils, and we hear about this approach. It's been tried now for years.
We got the question.
Okay.
The question, Councillor Gawley.
Yeah, and I think, I feel like I've been around this question a few times and happy to continue to answer it. It is proven that the quality of recyclate when commingled is not good. Waste is a market, and I would much rather we do the right thing and recycle responsibly, and to ensure that our recyclate is managed in the best way, kept in the UK as a first option, and doesn't end up in a third world country on a beach like we see so many poor stories of where poor quality recycling ends up. The better the quality, the better market, the better reuse value that it has.
Yeah, I think that's the trope that's been rolled out so many times that, I wasn't talking about doing what we're doing. I was talking about the newer technologies that get around that problem. And of course, if you're never looking at those solutions, you will always end up with the same answer.
Again, we're into a conversation. Please, you had another question, I seem to remember.
Yeah, well, the question becomes then, very simply, why did you go out to public consultation when you've ignored the response?
So just to come back on your first point, we are and have been working with local Berkshire authorities to look at what technologies they're ready for the renewal of that PFI contract. So that work is going on in the background, but it's not something that we are going to change in this strategy. That is right, and I think I've highlighted that point. This is till the end of that PFI, but there has been work going on in the background, and I'm sure there will be more with LGR, with local government reform, as and when decisions are made. In terms of going to public consultation, absolutely, it's the right thing to do. And I would just highlight that actually the responses showed that over 50% of people could support a free weekly bin collection, although it may be a challenge at certain times of the year. Only 48% of people said they couldn't do it flat out. So there is absolutely a case for the willing to do this. And as I said at the top, we are here to support and enable that to happen around things like improving our curbside recycling, like pots and trays, like increasing our batteries at the curbside, like having textiles at the curbside, like having food waste at the curbside, glass at the curbside, plastics at the curbside. All of these things are here to help, support people to make that change. And like I said, a significant proportion of people said they could, but it might be a bit of a struggle at certain times of the year.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Councillor Bowick, who might want to come back.
Please, if you don't mind, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. And thank you, Councillor Gurley, for your presentation. And thank you for your passion, Councillor Abbs. Councillor Gurley, I'm sure you've been knocking on lots of doors in Thatcham. If you haven't, I know your friends have. And I wonder how many residents are thanking you for reducing their bin cycle to 3 weekly, thereby giving them the opportunity to recycle more. Because they're not telling us that.
Oh, I've not heard that either. So I think there are a significant proportion of residents out there that want to make that change and have said that they can with support. And it's certainly not a message that I've heard where residents are saying absolutely not.
Okay. So did you want to come back one more time?
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Leader. So I guess 2 final questions. Let's start with the part of the strategy that deals with nappies. And the strategy appears to be to persuade people to use real nappies. So what is your experience in terms of the proportion of the UK choosing to use real nappies versus disposable nappies? And why do you think they became so popular in the first place? Disposable nappies, that is.
We'll take that first.
Yes, I think it's a good, as someone that's got young children that has recently left nappies, and I'm talking like in the last few months, I've got proper lived experience of this. I completely understand how nappies can be a challenge. I think it's important to highlight that only 8% of respondents to the consultation said they had children in nappies at the time. In terms of handling real nappies, I think you probably appreciate there's that waste hierarchy that we want to try and reduce, reuse, and then recycle. And the technology in reusable nappies has come on significantly. And it's something that I think it can be and should be looked at as a possibility where possible. However, I am a realist. I absolutely am a realist. Like I said, I've been through this fairly recently and can know the challenges involved with nappies. But I recognise that they can be disposed of sensibly and what's the word I'm looking for? I've lost my words. They can be disposed of sensibly and cleanly and tidily by taking proper steps to do so in terms of bagging them, bagging them up in a nappy bag, then placing them into your black bin bag and then into the bin. I think I've used this scenario a few times. I have a medical condition that requires me to quite often dispose of sensitive medical waste into the black bin, and I own that as a task, and I make sure I do it responsibly and take steps to avoid any issues when it goes into the black bin. And thus far, I've not had challenge with nappies or my medical waste.
No, I wouldn't have challenged you on the medical, because it says in the strategy about basically offering support for that. So you didn't need to worry about that bit.
Final one.
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, the problem is that, and the final question is, why do you believe that you can change people's habits when the track record shows that it's a very, very difficult thing to do?
I mean, it's a fair question, and I think I would probably go back to the fact that when the change to 2 weekly bins happened, fortnightly bins, sorry, not 2 week, fortnightly bins, black bins happened, and I'm sure we probably had this debate and discussion at that point, and I believe that our recycling rates were down at the ground at like 10 or 12% at that point. And I think we are at a point now where there is a significant proportion of people that that can make this change and are willing to try. And also, I think it's important to be efficient in how we deliver that service. And actually, I would rather invest the time and energy in increasing our recycling routes than collecting fresh air in some instances with some of the black bins that are out there. And we've proven that, the numbers prove it. The data shows that over 40% of black bin waste can be recycled. And we all have to take that challenge on. So I do believe that we're in a position to make that change. We are not an outlier now. I remember when you first proposed this at EAG and it ended up on the front of the Newbury Weekly News, we probably were potentially an early adopter. We're not now. There are many, many other councils making that change. We've got neighbouring authorities such as Bracknell that have recently made that change, providing less weekly capacity than we would on 3 weekly bins, and their recycling percentage has jumped up quite significantly. So I do think we are in the right place to do this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be supporting it.
Just a point of information, though, Leader, I did not propose what is being proposed at EAG.
Clearly, it was discussed. Otherwise,
it was brought forward by officers. Yes.
Councillor Stewart. Joe Stewart.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question about the littering and fly tipping pieces. So I'm going to say one good thing, which is that I'm really pleased that Tilehurst litter pickers have been granted some litter picking kit by the council. So I'm actually going to be taking responsibility for that, and it will be lodged with Tilehurst Parish Council. And my litter picks will be able to use that, but also the community and the parish council will be able to use that as well. So I'm really pleased about that. You have an action on the action plan, which is strengthen our commitment to combat littering and fly tipping. And it talks about things like increased monitoring, which is fantastic, comprehensive public awareness campaign launched, which absolutely is needed. And it says start in 2026. And it feels like something that really could be started much sooner than that. And my proposal would be, if I'm allowed to do that, is there are certain areas from my experience when we're doing litter picking that could benefit from some of that campaign awareness. Schools would be one of them. Certainly a lot of my litter picks are done around schools. Now, some of the schools tell me that they get bad press and it's not their waste, which it may be correct. I won't tell you some of the things we find. But I do think that if we're tackling the younger generation and they develop those good habits, then, you know, hopefully this will be a problem that goes away or certainly reduces.
So I'm in danger of giving you longer than Councillor Abbott.
Well, I'm trying, but
I mean, the record now in the Senate is 25 hours and 35 minutes. Let's not go there. But you're challenging us to actually roll out more education to schools.
Sooner.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Councillor Codling and Councillor Gawley and all of us on this side would say, yes, we should do that. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a really good opportunity to do that with, I think schools are being asked to pull together an environment action plan. And that's kind of funded through the Department for Education, if I believe I've got my facts correct. And that's an opportunity for us to really work with them to put these things on our agenda, put things on the school's agenda to actually action plan this out and support the delivery of that in the schools. We're also looking at doing it from a highways perspective in terms of things like school transport plans. So there is a real opportunity coming with that funding to be able to deliver this extra education and extra support in the schools and work collectively and collaboratively with them. So I definitely think it will come for sure. And we're already doing it. You know, we recently ran the livery competition for the recycling, the new recycling fleet, for example. And it was a fantastic event. And I can't remember now off the top of the head how many participants we had, but it was well over 300, I believe, if I remember correctly. And now those children have been engaged in that process. The waste vehicles went there with the new livery on side to the winning schools, and they've been in part of that process, and they're driving around West Berkshire now with those school designs on. So I think, you know, that is ongoing, and I think it's a case of really making the most out of the new funding available in those schools with the climate action plans to deliver this as well. So, thank you.
Councillor Solomon. Had time to think of a question while all this has been going on.
Give me enough time, I'll come up with something. Thank you, Leader. Just on behalf of the 71% of residents that didn't support going to 3 weekly collections, it's interesting to look at stats, isn't it, and try to work it through, because I suspect 99.99% of people know what a litter bin is. You saw the amount of litter that gets picked up on a weekly basis. Are they all using it? No. So 52% might not. It's interesting to see the way that the figures will pan out. So my question to you really is, will you be monitoring the performance once the changes go through that you will obviously all vote through tonight? Will you be reporting them back to council? And if it's not working, what sort of timescale are we looking at before further changes or corrections or reversals might be made?
So absolutely, I think it's really important to control any change that's made. You know, where you look to make changes, it's important to monitor that and review the performance of it. You know, we do report on missed collections at the moment. You know, and as kind of standard BAU KPIs. We've recently obviously had our DEFRA recycling rates come out as well, so we can see how our performance on recycling rates are going. So we have metrics there to support that we're not just measuring the operational side, but also we want to measure the outcomes of it, right? We want to see that success. We want to see that kilogram per household go down. We want to see that recycling rate go up. But we also want to make sure that service is delivered at the curbside as is expected, and quite rightly so. You know, absolutely, there is opportunities to review that service, and if we need to make changes to it, then we will review that. Like I said, we don't want to see people struggle, but I think we've got to go through the necessary steps before we make any decision like that to go through the support processes that we currently have around extra capacity if needed, you know, and make sure we do all of those things and triage all those cases. So I would say it again, if people are potentially struggling when in real life, and I'm not talking, you know, necessarily now, but you know, leading up to it, then we can support with extra recycling containers, and we can, you know, as a kind of last resort, support with extra capacity in the black bin. So I think it's important that we give a good reasonable time frame to review this, to deliver those opportunities for support that I've kind of highlighted, and let this bed in before we jump to any rash decisions and roll it back.
Thank you, everybody. Councillor Foote wanted to come in, I think.
Yes, thanks, Leader. It's just really an observation that I'd like to just come back on. Councillor Abbs said that it's a very difficult job changing people's attitudes, but I would fully endorse what Councillor Stewart said, that her example of the litter picking around schools, getting young people involved in this is really good, and you can change people's attitude, and I think we should always endeavour to do that, and I think we should celebrate that. Obviously, as Councillor Gawley has said, that if things aren't working out in individual cases, that can be reviewed. But I think you can change people's attitudes by the right approach. Thank you very much.
Councillor Cottingham.
Thank you, Leader. So the key stat within the report, you talk about black bin being 42%. So it's just really a wider question as how low do you think we can go to reduce that, which, improves our own recycling capability within West Berkshire. So, and where would that place us within a national league table?
Good question. So we obviously, like you say, 42% can be recycled. That is of the black bin residual waste. There are a number of options highlighted in this report that takes us well above the kind of national expectation of 60. We've had our recent recycling figures out, and I think I may have written them down in my old book, which I don't have with me. We were the 17th highest improved local authority. So that we've improved in the top 17, basically, out of 320, I think it is. So a really good, a good performance already. And so I think, we can change people's attitudes, and I think that supports that. However, we're still in the top 25 for worst councils in terms of kilogram per household. And I think really and that's in the black bin. So shifting that out of the black bin into recycling is where the opportunity really is for us, alongside delivering that recycling rate. And I think, this will help do that. Like if people just made the full use of the food caddy and took that out of the black bin, that would represent a big shift in percentage points in terms of recycling rate.
Grateful to that, and members and the public will have seen that even on your own side, you can get bowled a curved ball that you weren't expecting. Councillor Gaines, did you want to sum up as a seconder?
Just to...
I thought I was...
Really quick question, just for clarification. I'm sure Councillor Gurley will be able to respond immediately. You said, Councillor Gurley, that 42% of the black bin waste can be recycled. Does that mean it would be recycled by West Berkshire? All that 42% would be presently?
No, not if it's in black bin waste. No, there's 42% of black bin waste could be recycled through one of the existing West Berkshire routes.
Thank you. Moving on, Councillor Gaines.
Just a couple of things, Leader. This is a strategy for the next 8 years. It's our Liberal Democrat waste strategy for the next 8 years. It is a document that will be used by officers, by members, but also the public can look at this document, and it's very clear what our intentions are in those 8 years. It has some really good diagrams. I particularly like the diagram on page 129 with the bin and all the sort of the waste in that bin. And it's a very clear indication to somebody, to people out there who are not sitting around a table and talking about waste strategies, who actually can see very clearly what they can and can't currently recycle. But that doesn't mean that we can't recycle other things in the future. We've only recently just been doing the clear plastic trays. We've started to do batteries. That wasn't available a couple of years ago. So we can't say, as Councillor Abbs said, oh, well, what makes people think we can't get to 60%? We don't know what we can recycle in the future. And certainly we don't know what we're going to can recycle in the next 8 years, because technology moves on. And we possibly could get to 60% in that time. Changing people's attitudes, absolutely. When my daughter was 8 years old, we went to the supermarket, and we actually were looking at some different things, and she was sort of saying, you can't have that one because you can't recycle it. Now, she was 8 years old. Now, you can, if you change children's perception, you can actually get people to think about recycling. I've had a situation now where I've had one half a bag of a white bag of household waste in a 2-weekly bin. Complete waste of time. I could easily go to 4 weeks, in all honesty, and I wouldn't miss it. I appreciate that there's only 2 of us in our household, and so therefore other households won't have the same situations. But we can educate people and educate ourselves into actually being much more mindful of what you can recycle, and as I say, investigate technology to do that. The document itself, I think, is really clear. I love the delivery plan. I think it sets out very clearly over the next 8 years what our intentions are, and I love the priorities and the boxes that actually represent them, like they are with the recycling that we use elsewhere. I think that's pretty much all I've got to say. But I think you can change habits, and technology moves on, and we can get to that 60% if we need to. Leader.
Members, we all want to see more recycling, and this goes a long way to helping that happen. The change over the last 20 years has been immense. The amount that people recycle now is growing all the time, and will continue to through this 7-8 year cycle anyway, this waste strategy, where we can improve it. And as Councillor Gaines said, where you can suddenly add a recycling process, you will, where it makes sense, where there is a market for it. But everybody, I feel now, particularly from schools, but upwards, are aware of recycling. Can we recycle that? Can we recycle that? And as packaging from supermarkets starts to reduce, that weighty, unnecessary packaging, the black bin contents will go down even further. Because as I cut round some processed meat I buy, or some steak of the cheap cuts, there's so much plastic waste comes off that you think, crikey, this is ridiculous. That will improve as well. That will improve as well. And we've had funding across the country. In fact, there have been funding initiatives to help us do that. And the whole mood, the messaging is out there that says recycle where you can, and people have embraced it. So this is we are not outliers here. We are not the first council that will introduce 3-weekly black bin collection by any means whatsoever. And I'm delighted with this strategy. I know we all are. I think it will work extremely well. I think it's got some general support. There might be ways that others would have done it differently. This is the one we're going to adopt, and I'm grateful to you. So all those in favour, please. Thank you very much indeed. Members, item 9. I'd like to thank the members that have submitted questions for this evening's executive meeting. In fact, it's the Councillor Bowick show. And I'm going straight to question A to Councillor Heather Codling.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Thank you for your question. As lead member, I consider this a significant part of my role. We continue to strengthen our corporate parenting panel to ensure we really explore the lived experience of the children we care for. We know one of the issues locally and nationally is having the right homes for children at the right time. We are engaged in the regional fostering hub, and we continue to work with our recruitment and retention of foster carers. We also focus on kinship care, so ensuring wider families are explored as potential carers for children, as we know children do best when they are kept within their families or within foster homes. We're also engaging in the regional care cooperative, which will focus on residential care and how this can be strengthened regionally to ensure those children who require residential have the provision that meets their needs. Placement stability is reviewed by the team on a regular basis, and placement breakdowns happen for many reasons, but a lot of work is undertaken to avoid this. Over the last 2 months, this has improved. 9% of children in January and February had 3 or more placement moves. It's an area I know the team review monthly and in performance board, and I am kept up to date on this. Do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Councillor, for that comprehensive question. I noted in the February report that the figures have improved for 3 months, so that's welcome. But I really hope that that improvement is sustainable. It's just 1 quarter essentially. But longer term, whatever comes about through the local government review, and we touched on this when we last spoke about this in the special executive. I was kind of a little bit disappointed that when I asked my question, you only referred to rural education. My point was broader than that. So my question then, Leader, is how will you prepare your services for the significant change that's going to come about in order to continue making the lives of our children in our care even better?
Well, that would obviously be part of the review process for the whole reorganisation, whichever route we go. And we will have to work very closely with our partners, whether it's foster carers, you know, our team in-house, social workers, all that. It will just mean a lot of hard work for us all to work together to ensure that schools and children in our care are looked after and not lost in any of the system. And whichever route we go, whether it's across to Reading and Wokingham, for instance, or whether it is with the other rural areas, you know, we will just work very closely with them and make sure no child is lost in that system.
Councillor Burke, you make a good point in question, but LGR, local government review, is not a slam dunk. We won't know, I would imagine, for a year if it's if we're heading towards the Ridgeway Council. In the event, there will be a lot of transfer of children's schools, children's family services over from the Oxfordshire County Council. And the question then is, how well can we get that done? But a bit premature at the moment, but a good question. The next one's you as well, I think, Councillor Barrett to Councillor Codling.
Thank you again for your question. All children subject to a child protection plan have plans reviewed regularly. Following the initial plan being agreed, the first review takes place at 3 months, and all review conferences are held every 6 months. These can be brought forward if there is a significant change which requires it. In between this, child protection reviews, core groups are held every 4 weeks to review plans and progress. Children on child protection plans are considered at risk of significant harm. Therefore, regular reviews are needed to ensure the plan is being met and the children are kept safe. Do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you.
And then the next one from you, Councillor Barrett to Councillor Gourley.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Burke, for the question. There are currently charge points outside of Newbury already. We have charges in Fatcham Gilbert Court, Lambourne High Street, Hungerford Church Street, Pangbourne Station Road car park. And the team are working on delivering charge points in our council-owned car parks across West Berkshire in the next phase. And Fatcham's Kennet Leisure Centre is part of that next phase, amongst many others outside of Newbury. In addition, we're in the process of awarding a contract under the Levi Fund to deliver on-street chargers shortly across West Berkshire, which will include areas such as Towerhurst and Calcott. The team welcome any suggestions, and these can be assessed for suitability. So I'd highly recommend that if you or any of the members of the public or fellow ward members to drop us a line, and you can email ev@westberks.gov.uk to submit those potential locations. Do you have a supplementary?
Yes. It's good to hear that there is progress, but I want to make it clear that my residents don't consider that on-street charging is a great prospect for people who are not able to charge, you know, who want to charge on the run, if you like, because they really only serve residents and they're very difficult to access. Whereas if you compare the publicly available charge points between Newbury and the rest of the district, there's a huge disproportion. of availability. And my question is, when are you going to address that part of it?
I think it's a fair point, and I think it's about having the blend of the infrastructure, the slow chargers, the fast charger, the rapid charge, and the ability to charge at home. I think it's great that we were a pioneering council in introducing Turbocharge to allow residents to charge from their own homes. Obviously, blending that with the on-street, which I absolutely accept your point. And expanding our off-street provision in our council-owned car parks. So, and we've got a really ambitious kind of program of works over the next year, and we're on the plan for this year already. Outside of Newbury, we've got Field High Street, Fatcham Station Road Car Park, Fatcham Birdwood Centre, Pangbourne River Meadow, Hungerford Station Car Park, and as I mentioned, Fatcham Kennet Leisure Centre. So it isn't just all about Newbury. Thank you.
And again with you, Councillor Burke. Councillor Pemberton.
Councillor Burke, thank you very much for your question. The council will shortly be launching a new community outreach model, which will transform the way the council provides information and advice to residents across the district. Residents will be able to access high quality information and advice in libraries, village halls, leisure centres and community group settings. The venues incorporated in the service will become known as community hubs. The service will allow residents of West Berkshire improved access to trusted advice and support within their communities. A key focus of this new model will be to reduce social isolation by signposting and referring residents to services and activities, as well as seeking their feedback about what support, advice and activities are most needed in their community. The service will prioritise supporting residents in our more deprived areas across the district. The outcomes and outputs of the service will be measured to ensure that the service is meeting the needs of residents and tackling social isolation in West Berkshire. Everyone Active, the council's leisure contract operator, also delivers a physical activity outreach programme in communities across the district. Everyone Active is building on its existing programme and opportunities, and demand for outreach delivery in Aldermaston will be considered. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do. And thank you for your comprehensive reply. I don't think it's going to come as any shock to you that what's behind this question is the continuing instances of antisocial behaviour in Aldermaston. It's clear that the instigators of much of the ASB that we see in Aldermaston Ward live in really challenging circumstances. The chances that those people are going to be polling up to a community hub anytime soon is vanishingly small. So I guess my question is, why are you abandoning these people?
Thank you for your further question, Councillor Berwick. We're not abandoning these people. We cannot possibly anticipate how every single resident across the district will access the service. As you rightly point out, people will interact with council services or not interact with council services as they see fit. The question that you asked was about the community hub model, and we're confident that the vast majority of residents in our district, including in your ward, will access those services, Councillor Berwick. In relation to the driver behind your question and the antisocial behaviour that you are referring to, you will obviously be aware of ongoing operations that have been taking place across the council, and particularly with our public protection partnership and Thames Valley Police as well. And I can assure you that there is a multi-pronged approach to those issues, including people that live within some of those deprived communities, not just to stigmatise and criminalise them, but to help and support them as well, because everybody's vulnerable. Can be vulnerable. Thank you. Okay,
I think that concludes the questions from the members of the council. I now need to move to exclude the press and public. Do I have a second of that? I'm proposing. Seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. Gentlemen, good to see you. Good evening. Mr. Chiverton, where are you? You need to tell us that we're now in the safety of part 2, please. We are good to go. Thank you. Therefore, page